My next presenter is actually with Freeman. So Marc, why don't you come on over and join us? So later this afternoon, Marc is going to be moderating a session on combating event complacency with disruptive thinking. How are you doing, Marc?
That's right. I'm great. How are you?
It's so good to see you. I'm
Good to see you.
fabulous.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because the motto of innovate or die in our event space is something that I take very seriously, as most of us in this space do, right? So what are some of the things that really ensures that our events are fresh and engaging and relevant to attendees? And tell us a little bit about how that's going to come to life in your session this afternoon.
So the session, I mean, I guess from a mantra standpoint, what's really important in the space is it's a phrase that I kind of stole from National Public Radio. It's anticipation mingled with uncertainty. And I think it's just a brilliant phrase that captures the sense, is that's what people are looking for, right? Anything that's too predictable, chances are they've already seen it on YouTube. They've seen it before because they have this thing called the internet. So they're looking, when they come to a live event, they're looking for spontaneity. They're looking for opportunities to collaborate and connect. And they don't want to just see the sage on stage kind of regurgitate things that they've already heard and seen or are able to access online. So if there is an experience that's face-to-face that you can have a better or as good experience online, it's not a good face-to-face strategy.
Absolutely. Well, it's such a good point. And I think that infuses into everything that we see in event design, right? Like the days of canned speaker presentations don't work anymore because chances are that speaker has that content online that anyone can go and watch. So it's definitely changing the way that we think much more strategically.
Yeah, and for our session, I mean, you know, that's to your point. The topic is disruption, disrupting complacency. So we're not going to talk about it. We're actually going to show it by doing it. And so if people are going to come live, I would encourage that. We're going to be using FXP Touch pretty intensely. But there's going to be a lot of surprises in this session, and it's going to be very fast-moving, very fast-paced, and I think people will get something out of the content, but also the format.
Interesting. Okay, so unfortunately, our digital audience is not going to have the opportunity to see that session stream, which is one of the reasons why we're talking with Marc.
Okay.
So give us some cliff notes, if you will. What are some of those key facets of disruptive event design thinking, and how can we incorporate that approach to make our future meetings even better than ever?
So I think we've gotten lulled into doing things in a sort of traditional format. When you look at general speaking sessions, when you look at debates, when you look at panels, discussions, they really haven't evolved very much since the time of pre-internet. So really looking at refreshing how those are done, and we'll run different type of sessions in sort of a seamless flow this afternoon and show kind of the latest thinking on how those sort of structural things are done. What's great about it is it doesn't cost money to redo the format. It requires a different philosophical mindset. And with the millennials, they're very, very adept at adopting these type of approaches because they're just much more in tune and akin to the way they think. So it's very easy to get them on board. With our audience at PCMA, I think they'll be inspired by kind of these new formats as well as the topics that we're going to be talking about.
Excellent. Just a reminder, anybody has questions for Marc, this is your opportunity. We're watching your comments and chat here. So one of the things that I think is interesting also in that realm is the collaboration between the myriad of stakeholders that really surround the event design process. What happens if your key stakeholders, your leadership, your C-suite, whoever in your organization that might be, what happens when they're risk averse?
Yeah.
How do you approach that when you really want to come in with this amazing disruptive design thinking and you want to change things up and get away from the been there, done that, but perhaps you're faced with leadership that is not quite on board with such a radical change?
You know, it's as I do global strategy, and I face this situation all the time. And unfortunately, the reality is this: is that you have people that talk about the fact that they want to be innovative, they want to be disruptive, they want to be creative. Whether or not they're going to be able to implement that depends on the level of intestinal fortitude they have. But it also depends very much on the level of pain that they're experiencing. So unfortunately, the people that are oftentimes most willing to adopt new strategies and change are the ones that are feeling the most pain. Unfortunately, when they have that, they've reached that threshold of pain, sometimes it's too late.
Right.
And so we see organizations that attendance is down and exhibitors are down, square footage is down. All the metrics have been saying for a while that things are going in the wrong direction, and either you have new leadership that comes in to change things up, or finally they're at a point of no return where they say, we really have to do something. Sometimes you've already lost you've lost your goodwill and credibility with your ecosystem, which are really exhibitors, your attendees, and then of course your partners and stakeholders.
Well, Mark, that's such a great point, because I think one of the things that I'm always most impressed about when, as someone in this space in the third-party realm who does a lot of strategic event design, when we have clients that come to us much more proactively, saying, honestly, nothing is broken right now,
Right.
but we have the foresight to want to make sure that we are relevant and we are staying important for our constituents.
Right.
How do you help organizations always have that constant improvement, right? It's like what we can all be best at with ourselves, that constant improvement mindset of always, I think, convening leaders, an education conference, what PCMA does is a great testament to this. How do we go in with that mindset of what we've always done, again, is not always the best way to keep going, and continue that innovation and that curiosity and that design mindset?
Yeah, well, I mean, individuals have to. I mean, let's be honest. There are some people that are just not cut out for this. I went to a session, not a session, but a conference recently, and Chris Sacca, who's a VC guy who I follow very much on Facebook and Twitter. He's a really interesting guy. He's invested in Uber and Twitter, and he's picked all the right things. But one of the questions that was asked by the audience, and I think it applies to this audience as well, is one of the people in the audience, and these are all startup guys, right? And they said, how do you know when your idea or when your startup is it's not going to make it? When do you know when it's time to call it quits? And he said, listen, let me just tell you something. Some of you out here, a lot of you, are not effing founders. You have no business being in this room. You need to go get a straight job because you're not cut out for it. He says, it's hard to hear. But the fact that you asked me that question means you're not cut out for it.
Right.
Because the entrepreneurs that are successful, they see their journey and they see the inevitability of what it is that they're doing. They never ask whether or not they're going to fail.
Right. It's not an option. Failure
it's not
isn't
an option. So with our audience, I think, there's one thing to say that you want to be innovative, but you have to kind of have it in your core. And, the simple answer to your question is there's a 3-step thing that you have to do is you have to disrupt people's complacency. So maybe they're just lulled into a variety of reasons why they can't do things. I don't have the resources. I don't have the budget. I don't know why I should do this. But you have to disrupt that complacency and say, if you stay the course, you will die. So there's a little bit of fear. Then you have to follow that immediately with inspiring them with a positive vision. This is what you could be.
The possibilities are endless.
The possibilities are endless. So maybe they get excited and they get inspired by that. But then the next thing that pops into their head is, okay, I really like that vision, but oh my God, I don't know how to do it. How do I do it? So disrupt complacency, inspire them with a vision, and then partner with them to really work hand in hand to show them how it can be done.
Some great advice. Love that 3-step process. Super.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Mark.
Thank
really
you so much,
appreciate
Amanda.
it. Really appreciate it. I'm sure that is going to be an awesome session.
Thank you.
So insider scoop. Y'all just got the insider scoop on that session later today.